Hello everybody and welcome, it's Meexington here. In today's video I'm just going to talk about the three buffs that are in Summoner's Rift. I'm going to talk about the blue buff, red buff and Baron buff. I'm just going to talk about what they are, what they do, why you should fight over them, their respawn times, and some tricks to remember when they're coming up just in case you didn't get the respawn time. So we're going to dive in here at the blue buff. Now the blue buff is the one that you want your mages to have. This gives massive mana regen. As you can see on your screen here, it gives them a passive of flat 25 mana per 5 seconds, and it also gives them 0.5 of their maximum mana. Now this may not sound like much, but if you're, say your mid lane's Anivia and they're stacking tier and they've got, 2000 mana or something like that, it's going to give them back huge amounts. And it's really good on Anivia and Swain and people who've got really spammable abilities that require quite a lot of mana and they're really mana hungry champions. It also gives 20% cooldown reduction, which is amazing as well on mages. The buff also gives energy regeneration. It's not really something you should think about taking unless you're the only person there that will benefit from it. It's really became the norm to give your mid lane the second blue buff, not the first one, because if they take the first one, yeah, it might help them do a bit better in lane, but it's going to really cripple your jungle. You're going to be level 1 once you've finished it. You're not going to have blue buff, you can't spam your abilities, things like that, and the cooldown reduction is really nice as well. So it's really good for mages on the second time that it spawns. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is the properties of it, just the spawn timer, the respawn timer, etc, etc. So it spawns at 1:55, and if you're jungling and you're starting blue, that's the time you should start it. You shouldn't be doing wolves or anything like that. That's the time you should just move to get it done, so that your lanes can get back to their lanes. The respawn timer is 5 minutes, so when you kill it, just open up chat, add 5 minutes to the time, and just type in. Normally, if you've killed it, it would be like 7:15 it'd come up, so you type in chat, our blue, 7:15. If you forget to do that, however, there is some tricks that you could use, judging by the blue buff. So if you forget what time you've killed it by, but you notice that you've still got the blue buff on you, you can judge, or you can wait till the blue buff runs out, and then just add 2 minutes 30. So say I'm jungling on a Moo and I've not taken down the time that I killed it at, and it's 10:15 and my blue buff just dropped. I could then open up chat, add 2 minutes 30 to that, our blue spawns 12:45, and then everybody knows it's 12:45, and you have it in the chat log as a record so that you know that you can just check in chat log, see when it's up, and you can start your tactics around it. Now, if you do have runic affinity, it just means that your blue buff will last 30 seconds longer. So if my blue buff normally dropped at 10:15, it would have dropped 10:45. And the fact that I know I have runic affinity means I just add an extra 2 minutes on instead of the normal 2 minutes 30. Something to add as well is that whoever kills you gets the blue buff. So the last thing you want to do is give that fed Cassiopeia your blue buff. So if you've got blue buff, you really don't want to be doing overly aggressive things that might get you killed. Now moving on to the red buff, it's practically the same as blue in every single way. Spawns at the exact same time, exact same respawn, exact same duration with runic affinity. So the things I said before still apply here. Although the buff is dramatically different, the properties remain the same. Now on to what the buff actually does. So when you get the red buff, your physical attacks start applying a slowing debuff. Now the slow percentage depends on your champion's range and level. So if your champion is melee, the slow percent is 8% for level 1, 16% for level 6, and 24% for level 11. It's slightly less on ranged champions for obvious reasons. So the ranged champions is 5% at level 1, 10% at level 6, and 15% at level 11. Now you may be thinking, oh, it's much better on melee champions, but no, that's not right. It's better on ranged champions because they have the range to apply it and they don't have to get in harm's way to do it. It's really good on AD carries endgame when everybody's just trying to kill the AD carry, because the AD carry is the one that does the most damage late game. So if their Lee Sin jumps on the ranged carry, they can slow them, kite them back, flash back or something like that just to get away and keep applying that slow buff. But early in the game it's better to have it on your jungler because there's some junglers that can't kill without red buff, people like pre-6 Warwick or things like that have got a really hard time, but the red buff makes it slightly easier for them to do it, but it's still pretty hard to gank pre-6 with Warwick. A slightly overlooked benefit of the red buff is the fact that it deals the true damage. The true damage at level 1 is kinda low, but it's decent for the amount of health they have at level 1. So it deals 10 damage plus 2 for every level that your champion has, and it deals this damage twice per hit. So if you hit them, it will deal the damage, and then a second later it will deal the second portion of damage. So that's 20 damage, which doesn't seem like much, but it is a lot, the fact that it's true damage and there's no way that they can mitigate it. Now the late game, the red buff does work exceptionally well on big beefy tanks like Cho'Gath and things like that. Now people don't want to target Cho'Gath, so he's normally left to do what he wants, and if he's hitting the AD carry, you know, with the red buff and his Vorpal spikes and his white damage and just all things like that, it really adds up. And the fact that it slows as well, and it slows 24%, is amazing. It really can make the enemy AD carry focus you, which is what you want as a Cho'Gath. You know, you don't want the enemy AD carry to get in and get your back line, you want him to be shooting you. This buff also transfers to the killer on death, so you really don't want to give this to someone who's already doing ridiculous amounts of damage. It'll just add to that and it'll be a real burden to your team. Next we're moving on to the Baron buff. Now the Baron buff is always a big debate in team fights. It's always at the back of everybody's mind, you know, if we lose this fight they get Baron then they win. But why does Baron make them win? So first I'm just going to go through the spawn time, the respawn time, you know, the normal things. So it spawns at 15 minutes and it's got a 7 minutes respawn. The buff lasts 4 minutes without Runic Affinity, and it also lasts 4 minutes with Runic Affinity. So again, if you forget to time it, just look at your buff. If it's about to run out, just add 3 minutes to it. Simple as. The buff does not transfer to the killer upon death, which is quite a big thing, because that would be really nasty if you got Baron and then the enemy team aced you and then they all had Baron. Oh, it'd be scary. So we're going to go into what the Baron buff actually gives. The Baron buff scales on champion level, so at level 18 it gives the maximum stats, so it gives 40 ability power, 40 attack damage, regenerates 3% of maximum health every 5 seconds, regenerates 1% of maximum mana every 5 seconds, and the teammates who are dead upon killing Baron buff do not get the buff. Buff is not transferred upon death, as I said. There's been some calculations done actually to check how much the Baron buff is actually worth, and if the champion can gain from every single stat, the Baron buff is worth 5,120 gold. And now if you've got that on 5 of your team members, it's worth a total of 25,600 gold. And that's also taken into calculations the 300 gold that you also get for killing him. He also grants the 900 experience as well when he's killed. So this just about wraps up my buff video. If you enjoyed this, you can subscribe if you like. I'm going to be posting more League of Legends things, gameplay, commentaries, guides, just loads of different things. If you're a new player and you're looking for some help, you can check my older videos. You could also go to doublebuff.net. I produce content for there. It's a great community. They're really looking to help out new players, and it's a really good way to get in, and you can search for dual queue partners and things like that. It's just a really great community. You should really check it out. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you some other time. Ta-da.